Hey everybody, we're doing another episode of Indie Reads Aloud. Today, my good friend Jean Davis is making a repeat visit. We love it when Jean comes back because she writes really super fun stories and she's always fun to talk to, and I like her. So, welcome back, Jean.
Hello and boy, thank you for having me again.
Well, you're welcome all the time. Just, I figure you're writing so wonderfully prolifically that we're gonna meet like every 6 months, is about what I'm
Probably,
looking
yeah.
at.
Yeah.
So works
We'll
for
just
me.
keep turning them out and keep visiting.
For, for those of you who have not heard an episode with Gene Davis before, you really should go back in the index and look for them because they're super fun. And she writes a myriad of wonderment. So, children's books and fantasy and satire and goofy. Oh my gosh, sheep. I can't get over the sheep. And then and then science fiction too. And then who knows what's coming next. So check out the stuff, read the show notes, and you'll read all about her bio and her website and all that fun stuff. So, Jean, I I have to dive right in here because I'm so super intrigued by two things about your reading today. But I'm going to do the important things first, which is this episode has a listener advisory for some violence and maybe some mature situations. So make sure that if you have little ears nearby, you preview this episode before you let the little ears listen, just, to be above board about it. Okay, so here's the thing. This book, where do I start? So, um, the category, I guess we'd call this. This is book zero of the Narvan series, which has got my brain doing backflips. Um, I'm not quite sure what book zero means,
It,
so
yeah. So this is a prequel novella for the series. So originally I was going to just release it and just call it a prequel novella. And then people were like, yeah, but where is it in the reading order? And I'm like, common sense would tell me you read it pre the rest of the series, but
because
I,
that's
I
what
decided.
prequel means, right?
Right. But I'm like, you
Yeah.
know what? Okay, fine. Because I did weird things when writing this series, as we do sometimes, because we write, as we discussed earlier, what the heart wants. We just do these things.
Mhm.
So originally I wrote book one and book two and book three as a logical person in order, and then yay me. And then I went back and I wrote book 1.5. So, because there was a 5-year gap between book one and two, and so we're like, you know what? I'm going to fill that in just for funsies. I mean, it's summarized in book two. You don't have to read 1.5, which was just going to be a Narvan novel. It was going to be an optional read. We'll just do that. And then people are like, yeah, but where does it go in the reading order? And I'm like, okay, so I'll label it book 1.5. And then I wrote book four and five, and then I came back and I wrote book zero. So I just wrote book zero right on it. We're just going to make it super easy. So it is book zero, book one, book 1.5, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So follow the numbers, made it as easy
And
as I can.
if you don't understand how the number line works, just send Jean an email and she'll give you the list in order.
It is in the reading order in the front of the book too. I have it in there.
Perfect.
Yeah. Try to
That's
cover all my
perfect.
bases.
Perfect. Okay, so curious question number two is this
Hmm.
title is tremendously intriguing to me. This is One Shot at the Sphinx.
Yes.
Now, um, shots can be interpreted in different ways. And
Yes.
and most of us know that the Sphinx is a giant thing that lives in Egypt. So, um, what is
This
with the
has nothing to do with Egypt. So as you see me drinking,
uh,
this the Sphinx is a bar. So if you see the front of the book, it is a bar.
okay.
The Sphinx is the name of the bar, and they are having one shot, a drink at the Sphinx. But there's also violence included. So it's a play on shot. But yeah, and also drinking because my characters in this series do a lot of drinking. They're all heavy drinkers. So we just rolled with it and yeah. So they're having
Okay.
a shot. at the Sphinx.
So it's a novella. Does that mean that this is only one shot, or do they have more than one?
They do have more than one.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
it leads right up to it literally delivers you to the front doorstep of book one. Um, yeah.
Okay. Now, for those of us who have not read the series yet,
hmm
discovering you for the very first time,
hmm
can you give us an umbrella understanding of the Narvan series?
So it is a series full of action, adventure, intrigue, assassins, politics, little romance, lots of drinking, and bad decisions are made, as all goes hand in hand. But yeah, it
And
is
it lives in the science fiction genre,
it is
correct?
science fiction. It is space opera under science fiction. So if you want to go in the science fiction umbrella and one level down to space opera,
And
so it
then level
is.
3 would be just overall bad decisions. Right?
It kind of features it's more of a light sci-fi, so it's not heavy hard sci-fi. So I like to write stories that are accessible to people. Enjoyment, you want to kick back and read a story about people in a science fiction environment doing science fiction-y things without having to understand how the fusion engine works. This is your kind of book.
That's
There
part of why I love your stuff because I don't need a science understanding to enjoy them.
Correct. I mean, there are some sciencey things, but we don't go in-depth, descriptions about
Yeah.
pages of how that all works. If
An
you want to,
astrophysicist, I'm not.
no,
So,
I also am not. I just like writing fun characters doing fun things that or being mean to my fun characters. But um, yeah, it's just having a good story.
cool.
That's what it should be about.
Okay.
So,
Give us, since this is book 0,
mhm.
give us just a brief overview of the story.
Okay, so the main series is all told through Vayan's point of view. He is a male main character of most of the books. And book 0, book 1.5, and book 5 are all multi-character point of view stories. So he has books that are his own. It all happens in chronological order, covers their entire lifespan. My thing for writing this book was people really liked the stories as we've started, book one, two, three, and
Right?
they were like, this female main character, and she's like a raging bitch. Why? Why? And I'm like, I know why, because originally this series was all told in her point of view.
Okay.
And then I totally swapped that all around as we do sometimes. And so I had all this backstory that I
Hmm.
knew, and I've worked it in throughout a little bit. But I wanted to go in and give you a base. So when you start book one, if you want, it's optional. You can start book one with the male point of view and just roll with it. And yeah, you could think, wow, this woman's a raging bitch until you get to book 1.5, which explains it a little bit more. Or you can start with a prequel, short and sweet, and it kind of gives you why? Why is she like this? Why is she so damaged and angry all the time? And so that's
I
that's why we did that.
I absolutely applaud you for taking all of the side notes for your writing and turning them into books because you seem to do that a lot.
I
And
do.
I think it's one of your superpowers.
Well, you spend all this time writing something, and it's like it's there. Why not share it?
So many of us, though, the backstory notes, the deep dives, the long-winded info dumps never make it onto the page because they are so tremendously tedious. And you have the superpower of taking that tedium and turning it into adventure. And I absolutely applaud you for that.
Well, thank you for that. However, I will tell you, I do have a lot of tedious deep dive crap people will never see. I have a whole Bible that goes with the series because it is so many books that I have so many things that were pulled from the original. I say very heavy on the air quotes, the original version of book one that is nothing like what book one is now. But it was 390,000 words, honey. It was
Holy
so,
moly.
yeah, because I
Okay,
want
for
to just
for those of you who don't understand word count things,
don't ever do that.
that 300,000 words is like 4 Harry Potter series, right?
Yeah, it's
It's like
insane.
it's like 15 books is what we're talking about here.
Right. So I loved these characters so much when I was writing the original heavy on the air quotes first version of this book that I didn't want to stop writing them. And I wanted to write
Mm,
all of the tedious backstory and I wanted to do all of the things with them and add all of the characters. And so it was
sure.
this god awful Frankenmonster by the time I had finally got to the end. And I had some people reading it. They're like, why are all these tangents? And they just goes everywhere. And as you know, our first novels do.
Of
Um,
course.
and I said,
Sometimes the
well,
eighth novel does that.
and I said, okay, we need to do a whole thing. And so 30 some years later, we have the actual book one, with zero air quotes. Yeah. But yeah, I had all of this information and I wanted to distill some of that tedium into
Sure.
the book. But yeah.
That's fantastic. I am so excited to hear this. I love it when you read. I always have a good time. So when you are ready, Jean Davis, please take the microphone and read aloud from One Shot at the Sphinx.
Alrighty. The Jalvian soldiers at the bar were just getting started for the night, pouring drinks down their throats to the glee of the Sphinx's owner, Jenner. He filled their cups with a gleaming smile on his charred-looking face as the large blond soldiers swiped their credit chips. Soon enough, they would start brawling. Then I'd have to leave my drink and my dinner companion and get to work. Peter nodded toward a couple of the Jalvian officers talking quietly 2 tables over. Is it them, Anastassia? I told you, I'm not spying on anyone specific, I whispered. I'm just supposed to report anything interesting that I overhear. Jalvians appeared to all have been hatched from the same mold, perhaps genetically manipulated to adhere to a standard. Though there were a few outliers, probably half-breeds like I was pretending to be. The majority had bright blue eyes, varying shades of blonde hair, pale skin, and were tall and thick with muscle. They sat throughout the bar in clusters, their blue uniforms, many of which were dripping with commendations, further set them apart from our usual clientele. I had a feeling that they weren't allowed to drink on their own ships, because they really got into it here on the station. Thanks to the flowing alcohol, they chatted boisterously. I pinned my gaze on Peter's face while I struggled to make out anything useful in their confounding language. Peter smirked. Any favorable progress with your Jalvian lessons? I swore at him in Jalvian. That's about the extent of it. He laughed. I have no idea what you said, but your accent's improving. You wouldn't be laughing if you understood it. He laughed harder. It's not funny. I didn't want this damn job, but I'm trying to be useful. I joined the Verian army 5 years ago when I was at loose ends, hoping to find a new family to replace the two I'd already lost. My father and brother had died in the first Jalvian tests of Verian Prime's defenses 10 years ago, leaving me an orphan at 14. My telepathy qualified me to undergo training on Veria Prime, where rare gifts like mine were revered. Just when I thought I'd found my calling and everything was settling into place and I was going to be a seeker for the Verian people, I'd been cast out of my training for lack of a pure enough heart. Spying didn't require a heart. It's not my fault that the only language lessons I got were 2 weeks with an angry, dying Jalvian prisoner. At least he bought my cover as a human Jalvian half-breed, trying to make a name for herself. You do make a better Jalvian than any of the Verians do. I chuckled. The Verians, being half the size of Jalvians, had no hope of being passable spies. Even more than their appearance, their kind and passive ways were no match for the aggressive race, who had turned from occasional raiders into outright invaders, plundering Veria Prime for food and other resources to help with the war they were waging in their own system. Really, though, how much name-making does conquering a peaceful race of a mostly unarmed world offer? He asked. Not much. Without a crew to gain me commendations and unassociated with any Jalvian family name of any ranking, I was relying on my charming personality to get me anywhere. Peter snorted. Hey, the Jalvians like me. We have a lot in common. What worlds have you invaded lately? For the record, I nodded 2 tables over to the Jalvian officers I often sat with. Most of them don't want to be here any more than we want them here. They're just following their orders. And I was referring to drinking and punching things, not invading, smartass. With charms like yours, it's hard to understand why you're still single, he said, trying to maintain a straight face but utterly failing. I managed to hold a glare for a few seconds before laughing. I don't see your charms fixing your single status either. Married to my job isn't single, he said. Yes, well, I'm still looking for the right job to settle down with. Peter nodded and set about finishing the last few bites of his dinner. When he finished, he said, I heard you help Parishnev broker some sort of treaty? It seems I have more knowledge of the Narvan than most anyone else here, not counting them, I gestured to the Jalvians around us. Figuring I could put some of my secret training negotiating stuff into use. Well, good to see your years on Varia Prime are paying off, he said. Negotiating with an invading force wasn't how I ever planned to use my widely varied social assistance lessons that Seeker Res had drilled into my head. Because of that treaty, you won't see any of the Verian army here, which means the security team is running ragged on their own. One of his brows quirked. Human Jalvians half-breeds don't count. He shook his head. If I hadn't seen a Jalvian before, I think you'd make a passable one, I suppose. You've got the right skin tone and general thick build, but you're missing the blue eyes, haughty attitude, and several inches. And the language. Let's not forget that. I glared at Peter. Thick? I had muscle. He did not. It's a good thing most of them have to resort to speaking trade here on the Jalvian station, or on the station. None of the rest of you speak Jalvian either. I take it back. You do a passable impression of their attitude. Your turn, I pointed at my empty glass. After tossing back the rest of his, he made his way to the far end of the bar, away from most of the laughing and fist-thumping soldiers. I hoped my job made some sort of difference, but it sure didn't feel like it. We'd been under Jalvian occupation for months, and nothing had changed beyond establishing this treaty. I passed along juicy tidbits that I hoped were helpful, but I didn't see much point in it all. It was like the Verian army was going to stand up and fight back. We'd had our chance, and the only 2 days of the full Jalvian force invading, the entire world had surrendered. Now all our resources were being shipped off to the Narvian, a star system only a jump gate away. Peter set a fresh drink in front of me and sat to sip his. I took a drink and scowled at the glass. Water? I thought we were drinking. I have surgery to perform in the morning, and you, my dear friend, are supposed to be working. I can work and drink at the same time. It sells the cover, you know? You already look like you want to fight someone tonight, so maybe just stick with the water. He held up a hand. I know, you can take care of yourself, but I don't want a midnight call to patch you up. Like I said, I have surgery in the morning. I need my sleep. I'll try to keep my bleeding to a minimum. A table full of Jalvians burst into rowdy laughter. I could hear the palms slapping the table over the music. One of them caught my gaze and smiled. I raised my glass and smiled back. We'd connected a few highly enjoyable times outside of my spy duties. Peter's mouth dropped open. What's he doing here? I turned from checking my marks, who were just about primed for me to mingle with. One of the Artorian soldiers, who had made an emergency request to board the day before, stood at the entrance. He took a hesitant step inside. Part of the treaty. The station is allowed to offer aid to anyone without repercussion. We're a neutral zone. See, your training isn't as useless as you make it out to be. Not pure enough for the Verians, but still trying to do good, I said. Peter smiled and reached out to pat my hand. He wouldn't be smiling, and neither would Seeker Res, if either of them knew that I employed my oh-so-revered gift of telepathy to probe the Jalvians for information once they were inebriated enough not to notice. I didn't need to speak fluently for that. Images worked well enough in a pinch. While the treaty allowed the Artorians refuge while their ship was repaired, walking into a bar full of Jalvians was pushing the line of tolerance. It would have been far wiser to stay in his suite and his crew that he and his crew had been assigned. The Artorian, dark in every way that the Jalvians were fair, appeared an equal match for any of the hulking soldiers who had fallen silent. They eyed him up like one of Jenner's appetizer platters. The one small thing I gave the idiot credit for was he was out of uniform. No one else in the room shared my assessment. Even the Jalvian officers at the table beside us stood. The idiot headed for an empty seat at the bar. Should probably, I nodded to the impending situation. Right, I'll contact security, Peter offered. As I walked away, he said, and I mean it, I have surgery in the morning. I waved him off and planted myself at the bar where I could monitor things with Jenner while we waited for the station security. Ballsy move, Jenner muttered as I sat down. Me or the shadow and glower at the end of the bar giving you the serve me now stare? Both. He shook his head and went to serve the Artorian. At least Jenner would make a few credits off the guy before the Jalvians made a mess of him all over the tile floor. The volume slowly picked back up, but the tension in the room made my nerves sing. I sipped my water, suddenly grateful for Peter's thoughtfulness in the light of the need to keep my attention on so many people at once. When I spotted three Jalvians surrounding the Artorian, who was doing his best to be unobtrusive while he enjoyed his drink, I checked again for assistance. Security had yet to show. I slid off my stool. In keeping with the treaty rules, the Artorian looked to be doing his best to not engage with the insults being thrown in his face. The men surrounding him hadn't resorted to fists yet, but they weren't far from it, given the rising volume and the distinct lack of space between the lead Jalvian snows and the Artorians, we were in for trouble. Drawing myself up to my full 6'1" and squaring the shoulders I'd been diligently working on building up in the gym since I'd joined the loosely termed Verian military 5 years ago, I approached the brewing fight. One of Mr. Staredown's nose buddies intercepted me. I made out two of the words he growled in my face. Not and you. I didn't really want it to be me either, but that's where we were. I gave him a hefty shove, and he was momentarily off balance, so I darted forward to insert myself between Mr. Nose and the Artorian. Both of them paused their insult exchange to give me a look of surprise. Thankfully, the Artorian took the hint to disengage. Mr. Nose did not. He got in my face and started slinging words I didn't understand. Their language was pleasing to listen to, but learning languages had never been my gift. Self-preservation's instinct sifted through all the vitriol my Jalvian tutor had flung at me and applied it to the three soldiers. Whatever I said made them pause and take a step back, at which moment I noticed one of the officers laying a hand on Mr. Nose's shoulder. She laid into him in an enviable... I have to take a drink. Hold on. With an enviable, authoritative air I hoped to emulate one day. The only word I made out was treaty. I knew that one, having heard the Jalvians griping about it enough times in the past few days. The man retreated, leaving me standing with my back pressed against the Artorian in a space that was no longer confined. I took a quick step away, wishing I still had my water because my throat had gone dry now that the situation was diffused. I think I owe you a drink, he said in smooth trade. Grateful I didn't have to feign my way through another language, although Artorian and Jalvian were similar, I slipped into a seat beside him and nodded. Jinder was in front of us with 2 drinks in hand before I even signaled him. Thank you, Anastassia. Free drinks for the rest of the night to celebrate the cleaning costs I don't have to expend. You're welcome. I sipped my usual while sliding the shot glass of whatever he'd been drinking in front of the Artorian. You got a name? Chester Tisset. Anastasia, is it? He said. His accent came through as he fumbled my way through my name. That's not a Jalvian name, so I think we can be friends. We'll see, I said. I wonder what information he held and what skills I'd be willing to employ to get it. And we're going to stop there.
What? What? We're gonna stop there? That's not fair.
That's chapter 1.
Oh,
the
my
abridged
God.
version, but chapter 1.
So cool. Again, your snarky sense of humor does not disappoint. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I always have such fun with that. Okay, so the Narvan series is 6 books? No,
And
7 if you count 1.5.
yeah, 7 total. Yeah, if you count the
7.
prequel. Mhm.
Yeah, the prequel and 1.5.
Yep.
Okay. Is there going to be an 8th book in the series?
The core series has ended with book 5, but I'm not saying that there won't be another book. I do have one when I wrote book 5, as I do every freaking time when I write a book in the series, because I've been with these characters for 30 some years.
Yeah.
I don't like to let them go. So to make myself feel better, I always finish the book and then write notes for the next one. Because then I can tell myself it's not over.
Ah.
So will it be over forever for readers? Maybe. But I do have notes. So if at some point I do want to go back and do a book 6 or 7 or 8 or whatever we are on now.
3.2?
5.96. Yes, I can do another book. I do have it sketched out. It will just be with other characters that are in the series, because like I said, the core series is complete. And I don't want to spoil it by telling you why, but it is complete.
I absolutely love that you have found a coping mechanism for creative empty nest syndrome.
Yeah, exactly that.
I think that's absolutely fantastic.
So I don't have a problem when I do standalones. I'm like, one and done. It's cool, fine. But series, I'm like, I gotta have a little safety net. I gotta have something waiting for me. So if I want to go and write more, I can.
That's
yeah,
tremendously fun.
That's
mm-hmm. Really, really great. Okay, so aside from the Narvan series,
mm-hmm.
what do you have that's coming next?
So the
Because
next book,
I know you and you never stop writing.
I do not. I have so many projects right now. So right at this exact moment, I am in edits of a vampire romance novel. So it is called Siphon, and
Siphon. It's a great
it
title.
is.
It's awesome.
So the main character, Lavina, she is a emotional vampire, and she is feigning being an actual vampire because she finds vampires so tasty because they have all this violence and turmoil, and she loves
And
that flavor.
pent up
So
stuff. Yeah.
yeah, baggage
Yeah.
and hundreds of
Yeah.
years of it to feed off of. And oh
My
man.
gosh, what a great twist on an old story.
So she is pretending to be a vampire to hang out with the vampires to feed off of them. And what happens when you fall in love with one?
Uh-oh.
So yeah. And then
Uh-oh.
yeah, what happens when if you get found out and what happens then?
And how soon can we expect this?
That should be out in, I would say, early summer. That is my goal. So it
That's very
is,
cool.
yeah. So I have that
Is
one.
that
I
that's
have
going to be a standalone then,
that
correct?
is a standalone. So everything I'm
Okay, good.
currently working on, except with the exception of the next Nugget the Space Chicken book that I need to write. Um, that was this part of a series. But all of the adult books I currently have on my agenda are all standalone. So I that is another reason why I kind of put the Narvan on a hiatus right now. I had spent several years of my current writing career really focused on Narvan books, which is
Right?
great for me.
Yeah.
But because I find it really works for me with readers is having so many different books under the sci-fi fantasy horror umbrella, the speculative
Sure.
fiction umbrella,
Sure.
that I have a little something for everyone. And I was so focused on the series, which yay series for people who love series, but there's a lot of people who don't currently that are just like, I just want a one and done. I want a fun book. I want, I don't want to have to know that I have to read the other seven books to
Right.
get through this. Um, so I wanted to focus more on some standalones for a little bit before I possibly get back to book six or seven,
Or, craft a brand
whatever
new
we want to call it
series,
in the
which
series.
could happen. Yeah.
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 So that is out there, but right now it's all standalone. So I have a young adult sci-fi standalone that I'm working on. I have a young adult fantasy book I'm working on. I have a yet undisclosed project, which I guess I can say by the time this one comes out because it'll be after my meeting. I have a romance parody coming out. That
Oh, fun.
yes. So that one will be. It is inspired by my romance book club that I'm part of, and
Okay.
we read. I like to read romance books just because I don't normally. I mean, I write romance into some of my stories, but I don't write strictly romance books necessarily.
So it's a different headspace for you.
It is. It's a
Yeah.
vacation from the things I am working
Sure.
on, and so it
Yeah.
doesn't really interfere with the stuff I'm doing necessarily. And in the romance book club, it's been fun. It makes me have to read a book every month that I may not have made time for
Mhm.
otherwise. So we read.
Book clubs are a great way to discover new authors too.
They are, and it's
Yeah.
it's it's fun just getting together with all the ladies and going, hey, let's chat about whatever this book is, and because I am the one author in the group, and for an author going into a reader group where it's all these readers, it's fun to see the things that readers pick out that I wouldn't have picked out, and then they're all like, I didn't even notice that when I start bringing up stuff. They're like, I didn't even think about that, and I didn't notice this or that and the other thing. And so it's fun to see both sides of it, and it
Sure.
helps me to think about as I'm writing things like, is this something a reader is actually going to care about? Or like, as much as I'm fixated on this one detail and getting this thing right, I'm like, are readers going to just like skim over it and give, zero cares about it? And the answer is probably yes in most cases. So it's been great to help me tone down some things that I would be fixated on otherwise. But anyway, we read so many different kinds of romance books, everything from sports romance to, the historical stuff, the bodice rippers, up to like current contemporary,
Yeah.
all kinds of variations of different things of all adult situations, in every spice level. So it's been fun, and also just like there's some really weird stuff out there. And so our group meeting for January was supposed to be a choose your own unhinged romance book because we're always talking about the different ladies are always talking about, I read this weird, like, romance with mashed potatoes and, the weirdest things, the lawn flamingo. You're like, why? Why?
Wow. Wow.
It's pretty much anything but an actual man at this point, was what we want to read romance books about. So I decided I was going to write a romance parody in which she dates everything and finds
Okay.
reasons why or why not to go out with them for a second date. So she's speed
Okay.
dating all of the things, and we're going to have fun with it. Because
This sounds like it's going to be a fun um
it will be enjoyable, I
it
think.
it's it so so your book, and I keep referring back to this because I absolutely love it.
It's
Um
like Bard's Tale, but with
yeah,
romance.
not another Bard's Tale, but with romance.
Yes.
And one of the fun things about that book for me was it felt a lot like you were throwing darts at the fantasy dartboard and then writing a chapter about it.
You got that correct. So I
And
sat
and
down.
it was so much fun to see how you connected them all
Yes.
to
So
make a
we are going to do
whole
that
congruent story. And if you're going to do that with romance,
with
sign me up
romance.
because
Yep.
that's going to be fun.
Yep. So this is the only book I've ever done this with. I have it outlined. I have the cover made. I have the blurb written.
Wait, back
I
up,
haven't
back
written the
up,
book yet.
back up. You wrote an outline? Isn't that highly
A
unusual for
synopsis.
you?
Let me take that back. I wrote a
Okay,
synopsis.
okay.
So yeah.
Right,
Okay. I
right.
don't outline. I wrote a synopsis. I
Okay,
have been
okay.
writing synopsis probably
Nice,
for the
nice
past 2 years.
backpedaling there, Jean.
Yeah, not an outline.
Yeah.
No, it's a synopsis. Um, I do have a list of the things she's going to date, and we have a synopsis. So,
Okay. All right.
yes,
Yeah, please
I
let me know when that's coming out because
yeah, that'll
sign me up.
be.
That'll be fun.
I have to write it. I have everything ready but the book, so I have to write it. I'm trying to get Siphon off into
Sure.
other readers so that I can now focus on writing that one. But yeah, I have so many projects in the works, and I just gotta have time and
I
motivation to work on.
absolutely love you. I love your work. I love your storytelling. And I've said this before and I'm gonna say it again. Being your fan is a double-edged sword because I love what you write, but gosh darn it, can you slow down so I can catch up, please?
No, and you never know what you're gonna get next.
No, you never do.
So
It's great.
yeah,
It's like the toy in the bottom of the cereal box.
it could be fantasy, it could be sci-fi, it could be a kid's book. You don't know.
You don't know. And that's 90% of the fun. So,
Yeah, yeah, it's great, except when someone's like, I really want. So my last 2 years have been focused on when readers come up to me and they'll go, I really love X that you've written. What do you have like that? And I'm like, crap, nothing.
oh,
So
gee, I
I'm
gotta do
working
that one
on
again.
having, if you liked this, this is the next thing for you. Yeah.
Okay,
So that's
so last question, and then I'm gonna be out of time. But
uh-huh.
um, so when you get people coming up to your table at fairs and festivals and
Mm-hmm.
markets and whatever, and they say, I read this, I love it. I read Bard's Tale, I loved
Mm-hmm.
it. Do you have something else like it? Do you keep a little notepad of like these are the popular things people
Yes.
are requesting?
Exactly that. Yeah. So I in the back of my head, I'm like, okay, I need to write more like Bard's Tale. I need to write. So I have like people who love Samara and The Last God, which have more
Mhm.
romance elements to it. So now we have Siphon, which will be vampire with romance, and it's actually a romance novel. It is not, with other big plot. It's not something with romance. It is a vampire romance.
Right.
And yeah, when people are asking for people love Bard's Tale. So I'm like, okay, I got to write another parody. I have a sci-fi parody ideas all written out.
Okay.
I haven't had the motivation to write it. And then all of a sudden, this fantasy or the romance thing came up, and I'm like, okay, I have to write that instead. So it's you go where the muse tells you to go.
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. We are
Yeah,
not truly in control. We only have influence.
pretty much. Yeah.
And half the time we don't even have influence.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So people love Narvan, but they want something standalone. Now we have I9. So yeah, I'm working on filling in those gaps.
Perfect.
Mhm, mhm,
Perfect.
mhm.
All right. I look forward to seeing you in the new book festival season this spring and summer. And
Indeed.
please come back, in the next, I don't know, what is it, 3 months when the next book comes out?
We'll be back, definitely.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time and thanks again for reading. I appreciate you.
Thank you.